Hey guys, we are live. So this video comes from a question that was on a previous live stream, which is about wingmanship rules. So I just kind of wanted to go over what the rules are, what everyone needs to know, how to find a wing, what's the job of the wing, and if you guys even need one. So first off, a little bit of my background with it is my wing was not actually my friend. He was a friend of a friend. And the funny thing is, he had actually got the game first and then kept it a secret from me. So he told the other guys in my social circle, everyone back then just to call me just Grosch by my last name. So I guess the word was they're like, Grosch is already good with girls. Don't let him know it. Don't tell him about it. Otherwise, none of us will have a chance. Which is interesting because that's like an AFC mindset thing where you're already coming from a place of scarcity. And I didn't think I was that good, but I guess maybe I was because I'd already been married and already dated some pretty attractive women. And some of the guys in the group were virgins. And I think two of them actually, originally the first night we went out, there was four of us. Two of them were virgins. And I don't even think he'd ever even kissed a girl before. So we had, we're out one night and I saw one of the virgins. He got up and like cold approached two flight attendants that were at a table behind us and did an opener on them. They started laughing. They go, "Wow, you're funny. Come sit with us." And I was watching this and I was like, "What the fuck? How'd that happen? How did so and so make that happen?" Because I would have had tons of trouble doing that, even with a couple drinks in me. And that's when the other guy who was the virgin at the table was like, "Oh, it's the book of the game. You got to read it." So I've said this before. Out of anyone out there who'd be talking the most shit about this stuff, like it would have been me if I hadn't seen it like in action, like before I heard the book. So I understand why it gets so much hate. Anyways, I saw it. I was a believer. And there's a good quote from Tony Robbins where true change only comes from inspiration or desperation. So I was inspired because I saw this, I saw what was possible. And also because I was divorced, I was desperate. So it was like from both sides coming at it. So I read the game in like 3 days. And I think I just read 1/3 of it and was out that night. Like I got it from one of the guys a couple nights later, like got it from them, started reading it, and then was getting excited. So then they're like, "Hey, we're all going out to Mill, which is like the cool street by ASU, which ASU has like." There's a reason I moved back to Arizona because the women there are like some of the most attractive I've ever seen in the world. So they're going to that street where all the bars and stuff are. Normally, I would be like so scared I would never go there. I didn't like it. I pretended I didn't like that stuff, even though it was like social anxiety keeping me away from it. And we ended up going out. And then there's a great story about this that night. Maybe I'll share it some other time. But crash and burn, horrible. Everything could have gone wrong, went wrong. The funny thing is, all that stuff turns into like good, funny stories and lessons later. So it might have sucked in the moment, but it was hilarious. And so glad we did it. Anyways, we went out another night. One of the guys quit, and then we went out another time, and the second virgin quit. So it was just me and my wingman were the only guys that were left. And I actually think that helped out a little bit because like there was a bit of a rivalry, and we like kind of there was a little bit of friction. We kind of didn't like each other the most, but we were both like committed to this. So we ended up being wings. Since then, we tried like meeting up with tons of other guys. We did forum meetups and stuff. And that's actually how we got into teaching originally. I never thought that this would ever be a career or anything, but we started doing little forum meetups for the local guys here. And then some guys were coming from out of state just because I guess we were putting out some good stuff and people were seeing that we were walking the walk. And so guys came from like California, road tripped out here just to hang out with us. And then we realized we had to train these guys just so they could hang out with us. And that's really where like a lot of this started getting quantified and written down was like we had to teach just because they were so bad. When we go out with them, they would like ruin our spots or they would ruin anything we were doing. So we had to like come up with like, this is how you guys have to behave. That was a big part of it. The second part of it was just my wing and I, we had to figure this stuff out. And so I was just thinking of it today. There was countless examples where he would be in a group of people talking to them. And then I would come in and see a girl who I was like, ooh, that girl's not that attractive. Like clearly he's going for this girl because she's smoking hot, not going for this girl. And then I would start talking to her. And that happened a couple times. And then after like the third time, I think he was like, why do you keep going for my girl? And I was like, wait, what? Like, those are the type of girls you like? And that was why it worked out so well that we were wings, because we had totally different taste. And he liked the hipster, emo girls. He used to joke. He goes, I like girls that look like boys who cut themselves to feel. And I was like, all you, brother. That's not my style. So like, all you. And we had to figure that out because like I just assumed. So that's really where a lot of this stuff comes from. Problems that wings have is false assumptions. So that's number one. You got to talk. The other thing is guys who are coming at it from such an AFC life and perspective and background that as soon as you open a set, they get in there, they're having a good energy from the set, and then all of a sudden they're just like, screw you, I don't care who did this, who opened it, like it's about me. They're coming from a place of such scarcity that they f over their brothers, they f over their friends just to get that girl, and they do that in their life anyways. And so when you do that, like, you can't be trusted. So that's where the other side of this came from. So number one, whoever opens the set owns the set. That's like a classic rule, because if you don't have the balls to approach, then like you don't get to pick. And when I go in there and start doing my thing, well, married now, but when I would go in there and do my thing, like you don't get to then like steal from me and the work that I've done and doing the hardest part. So if that's not followed, if they're not respecting that, then you got to get rid of them. I'd give them one warning afterwards, but if they did it like twice and after I've talked to them once, first off, they already should know the rules. You guys have talked about it beforehand, but then if they did it to you once, if they did it a second time, I just wouldn't go out with them anymore because you can't trust them. And so someone you can't trust isn't a friend and not in my life. So that was a big one. And then you guys also got to make sure that you guys are clearly communicating. And the big issues that would come up is like, oh, who's the girl that I'm into? And so we came up with, well, actually, I shouldn't say we. I kept it simple because I always joke that I'm a caveman. I just want it to be real simple and easy. But my wing came up with a couple ideas, and he came up with like one example that was funny. Was I'd go in to talk to these people and to help them out, and he would go, "Oh, I'll try to nag the girl." Like I would go, "Oh, this is Susie. She's really cool. This is Jenny. Oh, and then this is Heather, and she got that shirt from Target." Almost like buying a shirt from Target's like a nag. And so that way, that would be his way of telling me that's my target, which I don't even like those terms. But then I was like, okay, if that's what you want to do, like you open the set, you're the one who gets to call the shots. And my job as a wing is to support you. And I knew he would support me back. So then that was like, while I would do things that I didn't love doing or wasn't the most comfortable for me because it wasn't about me. If he'd opened, then my job is to help a brother out. And so that also helps you start focusing on things from a different perspective too, because now you start thinking about the group instead of just one person. So I remember he came up with that idea. We talked about it. And we're like, okay, let's do it. And then like that night we went out, and then he didn't do it like once. You just forget about it. And so we'd laugh about that. There was another one we came up with where I don't want to get too much in the weeds with it. Anyways, we came up with stuff, and I was like, here's the easiest way. And this is the way I did it. And I think this is the simplest way. And this is the way I've always taught. It just makes it super simple. And it also helps you like lead, because if you're the one who knows more about this stuff than your wing, you've got to lead. So what I did is I would tell my friends, so we'd go out as a group, we'd go out with some friends. Even after we got good, we'd go out just with friends and then just hang out. And then while I'm walking up to the bar, if I see someone that caught my eye, I'd have to go talk to her. So some nights we'd go out, just my wing and I, and it would just be straight practicing all these social skills. And each night we'd isolate and pick one thing to focus on. So like, how many groups of people are you going to talk to? Are you going to cold approach? And he would go, oh, I'm going to do like 10. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do 11. So that was part of the friendly rivalry. We also had like a rule where one of us, like I had to go first, and then he couldn't go till I went. So it put a little pressure on me, like tit for tat. And then once you understand the rule too of whoever opens the set like owns it, well, if you're really going out and doing this, like you'll go to the bar, you'll see a girl you're really into, you're like, that's my style. And if your wing's there and he also digs that, like that style, you better go in first, because if he opens it, now your job is to support him. And if you're doing that, then you miss out on the girl who got your heart racing. So that clicked in my head too pretty quick, where I'd went out a few times and there was a girl I saw. I was like, ooh, gave me those butterflies, got my heart beating, like made me energy, my DNA, my spirit, whatever you want to, however you want to quantify it. Like me being a man, like it got me going. And I was like, I must talk to her. Like there's something special about her. My body reacted to it. Well, if he opened first and then later crashes and burns, or opens first and tries to get her number, now I'm done because I don't get to go for that. So that was another big part of whoever opens a set owns a set. That motivates you because you're like, he could open 5 sets and again sets, but he could go and open 5 groups of people, and that's the only 5 groups in this whole place, and 2 of them have the attractive girls, and now I don't have anyone to really talk to. My job's just being a wing. So like I said, that kind of helps motivate you. But we would go out each night, try to come up with a different game plan. Like, what are you going to work on tonight? Oh, I'm going to try to find someone to make out with. And then that, because that's like a different skill set, that's like a different goal. You have different energy when you're talking to someone, a lot more sexual. And other times I'd be like, oh, I'm just going to have small talk. I'm just going to be social because I'm feeling like low energy tonight. So I'm just going to make friends, or I'm going to make friends with the people that work here. So like whatever the goal was that night, it kind of helped. Like we would say it beforehand. So we'd go out. And like I said earlier, if I was with a group of just friends or with him, I could make this work no matter what. And I would get up to go get a drink, go to the bar, go to the bathroom, whatever, or just scout out the place. Like, oh, this is a cool place. I'm gonna walk around, check it out. Walk around and go and open. And then I would tell my wing, like, or my buddy, hey, if you see me talking to some people and you think I need help, because I didn't want to pressure people into doing it, but I was like, hey, if you think you want to help, or you want to help, or you think I need help, then just come over and ask me. And this was the question. And there's like 3 answers. Come over and tell me that you're going to go to the bar and get a drink and ask me if I want anything. And that right there sets me up for everything. So if your friend comes by and they're like, hey, Bravo, I'm getting ready to grab a beer, or I'm going to go grab a drink. You want anything? Well, if I want him to leave me alone because it's not the right time, it doesn't feel good, then I would just go, no, thanks, man. I'm good. And so now what just happened is I have a friend who's there, who's caring about me. Like I have a cool bro. Boom. I got some social proof right there. So that's good. But also it's basically letting them know, no, I'm good. If he asked me if I wanted a drink and I go, oh, you know what? Maybe next round, check back. Well, that's letting them know to give me some time and then come back. Or I might say like, oh, hey, yeah, can you grab me a beer? Or a lot of times I would go, yeah, you know what? Can you grab me maybe an ice water? And that tells them like, hey, go to the bar, get a drink and come back. And the amount of time it takes to do that, I'll now be ready for him. It's like almost time, but it's not quite. Or he might come up and be like, hey, Bravo, I'm going to grab a beer. And I would just like, oh my God, Gypsy, it's so good to see you, man. Hey, this is my buddy Gypsy I was telling you guys about. And that just means, hey, it's time to come in. So it really is up to me on when I want my wing to be in there. So he comes by, he's telling you he's getting a drink. And then he asks you, do you want anything? No, thanks. I'm good. Yeah, maybe in a little bit next round, or hey, go grab me a drink. That means give him time. Obviously, more time if you're like, oh, next round, that means like wait 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then check again. Or get me a drink. Yeah, I'll take one, whatever it is. And then he goes and gets it. And that could take a minute or two, or it could take a while depending on the venue. So you got to keep that in mind. And then other times he would come in and I would say, oh no, hey, this is my buddy I was just telling you about, or I told you about earlier. So I'd already prepped him that my buddy was there and he might be coming over. Like, why am I here? Who am I there with? So that way, boom, he just comes in and we're already like going. The other thing we would do is there was lots of little gambits and routines and all that to figure out who we should talk to. And again, I just wanted to keep it simple. So I would just be like, oh, hey, whoever the wing was, hey, this is Christy, this is Heather. Oh, Heather, you guys would be like, oh, I think you guys would really get along. She seems really cool. You guys have like a good vibe, good fit, good energy. What you guys seem like you guys would click, whatever it is. Hey, brother, I saw someone hop on here. Welcome to live stream. I would say something like, oh, you guys are a good fit. Oh, hey, you should tell her that joke you were telling her. Tell her that, do that magic trick, whatever the DHV is that he's good at or he wants to practice. Or sometimes we would just do it like or to have fun, we would throw each other under the bus. Like I remember doing that at a boot camp with a student. I was like, oh, hey, he was just going to read my palm. He's so good at this. You know what? You should read her palm. And it's a guy who's like never done it before. And he goes, this is your lifeline. And I used to just make it up on the fly. So you could also have a lot of fun doing that. But really, it was about me kind of being like the puppet master, like pushing them together. So now he doesn't even have to worry, who am I talking to, what's going on or anything. I'm just like basically going, you talk to her. And then that's it. Problem solved. Simple. So that's how I did it, is he's grabbing a drink, asking me if I want a drink. Then when he comes in, like accomplishment intro, which I probably have already done before. And now I'm just bringing it back up, and then kind of pushing the people together that I want to talk, and basically, hey, you talk to her. Maybe it's the girl who's craving attention. Maybe it's the girl who's like the mother hen to the group, who's like protecting everyone. Maybe it's the girl who's the C block and someone's got to kind of deal with her, whatever it is. But like, I know that because I've been talking to all these people and I've gotten the lay of the land, the read of the room already. So that I'm kind of like pushing them together. And then he just knows it's his job to handle that. And then he'll figure it out as he goes. And that's part of the training process. So that's a big part of it. And then when I mentioned on the description of this, and I'll get to the questions in just a second. Yeah, that's a good question. I'll get to that in a minute. Is like I was fortunate because a wing that I already knew, like we already were on the same path together. Like that was we were pretty fortunate. Most guys don't have that. Most guys don't get that. So we used to tell guys like, hey, get on the forums and look around. But the problem is there's not a lot of forums out there. There's so many weirdos out there, and it's just hard rolling the dice. There's not really meetups or anything like there used to be. So we do have a Discord, and there are guys who are on it. And I know, like, if you go to the big cities, some of the guys would actually drive a couple hours just to go out with each other on the weekends. So, like, there's a will, there's a way. You can make time for it. And then some of the guys I know too, like, would be on there and travel around and go hang out with other guys. And like, oh, I'm going to go to this city. I know so and so lives there. Now they got someone to hang out with. Even if it's just a hangout, you don't have to go crazy and just go sergeant and all that. Just hang out, and now you got someone with you. So that's one way. A lot of guys, though, they're always trying to bring their friends into this stuff. And they're like, hey, I want to bring my buddy into this. I want to get him in this. That's a hard road, because a lot of times, like, the foundation of the friendships and the dynamics of all that is already like locked in. And when you try to start changing that, a lot of your friends won't like this stuff. They won't like you. I've seen this countless times. I remember the first time I saw this was in high school. There was like this goth girl, and she was real pretty. And I had drama class with her. And I think I even told her once, like the year before, I think it was a year before, where I was like, she jeans, baggy, ugly clothes and stuff. And I was like, why do you dress like that? Like, you're so pretty. And I don't know, I'm not taking credit for it, but the next year, like senior year, she then shows up to school, and she still had like dark hair and stuff, but she like then started wearing dresses, and really attractive. And all of a sudden everyone's noticing her, but all of her friends were like, oh yeah, so and so, they're fake, they're not being who they are. But like, a lot of times your friends don't want you to evolve or get better or level up or change, because it kind of puts a spotlight on them that they're not. And so when that happens, then you realize very quickly they're not your friends. They're just like your circle, your acquaintances. And so it's like when there's a group of overweight people and one of them starts losing weight, the other people start getting jealous and shit talking them. So what I usually recommend is like taking a step back from your social circle and friends. And then you get good, which means going out without a wingman. You get good at socializing. You get good at going out. And if you just get good at cold approaching, like, that's a superpower. Like, most guys are never going to get good at that. So if you just get good at cold approaching and your friends see that, they're going to be blown away. And so that would probably be the biggest thing I would do. Get good at cold approaching, become fearless, even if nothing happens out of it. Well, I shouldn't say nothing happens, because something happens. But even if you end up like not getting dates or anything, just the fact you have the balls to do it, let them see that. And then what happened to me was then friends and friends of friends saw me, and then they would ask, they're like, whoa, what happened to you? Like, where'd all that confidence come from? Or like, whoa, you're totally different than last time I saw you. So let them recognize it, because the analogy I always tell people is like, nothing's as annoying as the real overweight person at work who all of a sudden started working out like a week ago and is eating a salad, and they're still morbidly obese. And then they start giving you like diet advice when you're like in pretty good shape and already know more than them. Like nothing's more annoying than that, right? So similarly, nothing's more annoying than a guy who's horrible at dating, AFC, all of a sudden who read a book and then starts telling all of his friends tips and what they're, more importantly, like what they're doing wrong, more annoyingly, what they're doing wrong. And then you're like the guy who's been getting girls and doing decent for a while, and this guy's like not, and he's telling you what, like, so don't do that. Like, go out and get good, let them see it, and then go, whoa, what happened to you? And you're like, hey man, I read this book called The Game. I read some of that pickup stuff. And however you want to say it, like I just decided to get into it and try it out and it worked. Or you could say something like, yeah, I thought it was BS and I wanted to try it and kind of just prove it didn't work. And then I tried it and it worked and it blew me away. So I started doing more of it, and I realized I had really bad social anxiety and I wanted to get over it. So I started going out and doing this, and yeah, it's changed my life. And now, just like me, people can get inspired, and then maybe your friend will come along. And you got to have the wingman talk beforehand, where you're like one of the things we used to do all the time, especially me, I was the worst at this. So again, when I always tell you guys like I was bad at this or I was worse than you, like a lot of students don't believe me, but like across the board, I was so bad in so many areas. So like one of the things I always used to do is I would like bust my friends' balls really bad because that's funny to us, but I would bust their balls in front of strangers. And I would take it even further where I'd like insult them and shit on them to like be funny. Because again, that was funny to us. But if you just meet someone and I'm shitting on my friend, like my best friend, to this stranger to try to be funny, like what does that convey? What does that subcommunicate? So like I'm a dick. Like they're gonna think I'm like a douchebag. I'm like, oh, this guy's shitting on someone to like look cool. Like that's not a cool look. So I realized that I was constantly DLVing, demonstrating lower value. I was constantly DLVing all the time in front of girls because I thought it was funny. And that's another big thing you got to realize. Like what I think is funny isn't what everyone else thinks is funny. And what guys think is funny isn't what girls think is funny. And also isn't what girls who don't know you and don't know your sense of humor, like they don't know what's funny. That's funny yet because they don't know you. So like one of my friends made a really inappropriate joke once when I was talking to two girls up in Flagstaff. Hilarious to us. The girls literally looked at each other, got up, and just walked away. And I was sitting at the table just talking. This guy's married. And then I was like, why did you joke about that? Think about the most inappropriate topic to joke about with women. That's what he said. And they got up and just walked away, and he blew me out. And he thought it was hilarious, but he's not into this stuff. So now I don't have any more female attention that night. So he blew me out. Anyways, the friend who gets into this stuff, you got to make sure you talk to him and say, hey, if I open it, and I'll throw them one or two. Like I might open a set and then push them towards each other. Or like sometimes there was the really attractive girl, but she wasn't my style. Like, oh, hey, you guys should talk. And then he's like, what? Oh yeah, I'll definitely wing you now because you're opening all these groups of people and you're introducing them to girls. And it really helps if there's like two attractive girls or three, because you're like, oh, hey, you guys should talk, or the two of you and him, you guys should talk about the thing, the astrology or magic, whatever it is. Like you're encouraging them to talk, and now he's there with two girls. So you got to kind of throw him a bone, and then hopefully he throws them the bone. But you throw a bone, and then that kind of helps let him know, like, hey, this is what I'm willing to do for you. You got to lead as a man, lead by example. So then let him know, like, hey, when you're in a group, when you go and talk to people, like, I'll talk to the three gay guys if you need me to, and talk about how great their 12th COVID shot is, like whatever it is. Like I'll do that for my wing because he might need that. So I'm gonna be a good wing. So once you do that and you bring that level of commitment, then you can expect it from him. But if you're not walking the walk, yeah, you can't ask him to do it. So when you're trying to bring a friend in, lead by example, let them kind of ask you, well, what's different? What's going on here? Same thing like if you're doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You guys are kind of equal because you're training together, and all of a sudden you start rolling with them and you're just crushing them. He's like, whoa, what happened? Where'd this come from? You're like, oh, I started watching these training videos, or I started going to this other school, or I started doing privates. And now all of a sudden he's like, I want that because I felt it and I saw it. So that's a big thing. The The biggest thing that happens with having a wing is, yeah, it helps you when you're in a group of people, like have someone talk to them. But later I got kind of past that to where I would, so if you open a bigger group of people, a lot of times that's easier. Like if you're just going to go cold approach like two girls, that becomes like the most difficult because they might like have not seen each other for a while. They're looking to like hang out with each other, and then you come in and try to take one person away, and then this person's like left hanging. So that's where the wing really comes in, is because when it's like one person or two people left by themselves, like he's got to be like a dancing monkey to entertain them and occupy them. So that way they're not feeling left out or like they're missing out. And that's the hardest. But I realized later, I remember once I opened like a group of people at a table that was near us. I was with some friends and they were at the table near us, and I started talking to one of them. And this has happened to us. So I always kind of think it things from different perspectives. Like if I'm in a big group of a group of people, and someone comes over and starts talking to me, and then I start talking to them, and I get up and kind of have a little private conversation over on the side, as long as my body language is cool, like everyone's going to think this is my friend, I know him, that everything's fine. We're just having a quick catch up. Maybe this is someone I work with or I train with or whatever. Like people are going to make assumptions like that. And so if you do that to a large group and there's a girl in there and you start talking to her and you guys leave the table, or she's like sitting there and gets up and you guys kind of just go over to the side, like as long as everyone there doesn't feel like anything's up, they're just going to go like, oh yeah, she's fine. She must know him, because that's what like the body language, that's the story they imagine. Also, what I started realizing was a bigger group, when one person leaves, it's almost like a membrane, like a cell. It kind of closes up. It's a lot easier if it's just one person from like a big table, because that table kind of doesn't even realize they're missing. And so if you start opening bigger groups of people, then you don't even really need a wing, because the rest of everyone just talks to each other and then problem solved, right? So I got to the point later where I would go out, and even if I was with my wing, I would just like separate, walk around, do my thing, and then he'd come by and see me. You need a drink? I'm like, no, I'm good. Get a phone number, do whatever. Later, see him talk to some people, walk by. Hey man, I'm getting a drink. You need anything? Oh no, I'm good. Or hey, come in here. Boom. Now I'm talking to them. Now we go to someone else or go to a different bar. And it just became so smooth and easy, and like no, it was just all dialed in. The only problems later is sometimes if your wing isn't evolving like you are, then you come in and you just are doing your thing because you're trying to wing and you're being a little bit of a dancing monkey, and you might blow your friend out because he's trying to like maybe go have a private conversation or have a little more intimate of a conversation with one person in particular. And then she hears me and I'm doing my thing, and then she's like, oh, I want to go see this, I want to hear that. So that was actually the only thing that came up later, was like being too awesome, which is hilarious to say, but like too awesome when she's in earshot. So then later he was like, hey, can you tone it down a little bit until I to have a little more time with her. But then as a wing, I'm like, yeah, sure, man, whatever you want. So last part, I think, with this specific, and then I'll get to that question, is I don't recommend really discussing problems or issues when you're out. Like you could do a mini debrief or like a little, oh hey, you said this, that came off really harsh, like you need to relax. Like one of my videos was what's the deal with nags? And I remember one night we went out with like a group of guys, and I still to this day have never really seen a nag ever performed smoothly by anyone else. And like I've jokingly done it, but I've seen some guys like do ball busting and stuff, but never really like a nag where it got, oh, yeah, I take it back. There was one time later from another coach, but other than that, that was it. So this time was like a guy who got the DVDs, didn't really know much about it, but knew a lot of theory. And I remember girls like touching them. And one of the classic nags is like, hey, hands off the merchandise. This shit ain't for free. And I've heard two guys now try to deliver that, and they did it horribly. And again, it's like a script, it's like a joke, it's like a song. You're a cover band, you're repeating someone else's stuff. But if you don't do it, if you don't sing that song well, no one's going to like it. If you don't tell the joke well, it's not going to be funny. You're not going to get a laugh, even though another person tells the joke and gets a huge laugh. So same thing with these lines. You got to have the right energy with it. You got to deliver it the right way, the way that the guy who invented it or came up with it or wrote it down, like the way they figured it out. So I remember the girl's touching him, and he's like, hey, hands off the merchandise. This shit ain't for free. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. And I heard it and I was like, oh fuck. So later on, I was like, hey man, you got to relax, just chill out. Like that sounded real harsh. He's like, oh, okay. So like something like that, I might tell them like, hey, relax, or hey, you got to smile more, man. You're looking like real serious. You're not smiling. Like just something simple, quick. That's it. That's all I would say, like in field. The real debrief happens, and this is the power of the wing, is at night afterwards. And so we would always go out. Sometimes we go to our house and hang out, but usually we'd go hit like an all night diner. If we're by ASU, there was like a Denny's there, an IHOP, whatever, Five and Diner, we'd go there. And then we'd debrief there. And we would just go down each set, like each group that we had talked to. Here's what'd you open with? What'd you do? How'd it go? Oh, I missed this part. What'd you say there? Oh, something worked well. What was that? We'd just go back and forth. And then we'd give each other the other person's perspective. So like, oh yeah, I was talking to this girl and this happened and that. Oh yeah, and then you said this. I saw that girl smile and she like before she touched you, and I'm like, oh, I didn't see that. And so then having another set of eyes there is huge. And it's someone who's not like emotionally wrapped up in it like you. So having another person there, be able to observe, and then who's smart, who can like give you the feedback later. That was the huge benefit of having a wing. So we read the game. I think 3 months later, I started feeling like I was seeing the Matrix, starting to see the Matrix. 6 months later, multiple girlfriends, doing my thing, living the crazy life. And less than a year later, like met Neil, and then was later like offered a job. So how did I get so good so fast? Inspiration, desperation, pushing myself, going out. We'd go out about 3 nights a week, wouldn't drink, didn't really like going out on weekends. I'm hearing impaired, and super loud places were hard. So we'd go out to like on weeknights, and also a little earlier, more chill, especially so we get there and kind of feel more comfortable before it starts getting busy. So we're already there. And then having the wing and breaking things down, like that was the biggest part. And then it gets to the point where you can break things down yourself, and you're like, oh, I should have done this. This is what I should have said. Oh, she said that. That would have been better to do this. And a lot of students aren't good enough to track this because it's so overwhelming when you're going out. And so I have a pretty good memory. Like even the stories I'm telling you, like I was like, oh yeah, the one coach, like I can specifically remember what he said. Like I have a pretty good memory for stuff. Some guys don't. And also when you're in stressful situations, like it's a lot harder sometimes for the short-term memory to like go into long-term memory storage. So record it. Get your iPhone, have your earbud out, have an earbud, Bluetooth one recording, pull out your phone. I used to say like a notebook, but now just your phone. Like go to another table, sit down, take some notes. Like I don't like numbering women like, oh, she's a 6, she's a 7. A, it's just dumb. B, it's so subjective. C, it messes with your head. Oh, this girl's a 7. I'm going to go be cool. Oh my God, this girl's a 9. What? Just to me, it's like, is she attractive? Am I into her? Is she cool? Then that's it. Yes or no. It's binary. But I would usually try to come up with like a little nickname, way of describing them. So that way, like I could remember, oh yeah, this girl was the massage therapist. So massage therapist, boom, boom. And then I could remember that. Oh, redhead, boom, boom, boom. I could do that. Red dress. So that way I could kind of remember like as an anchor point for the story, what it was, and then maybe write down some bullet points on that. I mentioned earlier too about having a goal when you would go out, like that was huge. And so sometimes it was like, I'm going to open 10 sets tonight, or I'm going to try to get 2 phone numbers, because quantity versus quality. So like changing that up all the time too helped. And then a lot of times I would do one and then my wing would do another. So we either wouldn't do the same or we would do the same depending. And that would also help us, because I don't want to do what he's doing. So I'm going to try to do something different. But that was the key. So if you don't have a wing who's trying to help you, a rising tide raises all ships. So a cool wing that's helping you, that has your back, that's going to just help you. And if you're doing the same, you guys are both going up. So you want to have cool dudes to roll with if you're going out practicing this stuff. And if I have a couple other guys, even if they're just casually into it, or even if they're just cool guys and they don't even think about this stuff, like that's great. Some people don't, other people do. Like you don't have to. Don't try to be forcing it on everyone too. Again, get good and let them ask about it. So, lastly too, if some guys need a little bit more of a push. I mentioned earlier the tit for tat, like, oh, I can't open a set till you do. And 11, 10, like I'm going first. But some of the guys would do stuff where they're like, oh, I'm going to give my wing $100. And every time I go and cold approach someone, they give me $20 of it back. And then if I don't do it, they get to keep the money. So now there's like money on the line. Now that's another motivation. I never needed any of that stuff because I decided to change my life and get good at this. So I didn't need $20 here and there to push me because I was already committed. And if you have trouble, yep. So the attainable goals, that's another part, is just like not making anything crazy. Like some guys are like, oh, I'm gonna open 20 sets tonight. I'm like, you're not gonna have like good interactions or anything. So if you are struggling with the cold approach, then set it high. But once you're good at that, once you can like check mark that box, then you don't need to focus that on anymore, because you're not gonna on that anymore. You're not gonna go out and like talk to 20, 30 people in a day. Like once you get good, I would go out and not cold approach any female for a month or two. And then I would see one at like CVS, or I'd see one at my taco shop, and I would see one at the library, I'd see one at Target, and then I'd see one at the bar, or I'd see one walking down the sidewalk, and I'm like, oh, I got to talk to her. So once you get good at that, you don't need to go out. That was always something that irritated me when I'd go to like these PUA events and stuff, and I'd hang out with other coaches. I remember one in particular. I'm in New York, and we all met up for food, and then we're all trying to get back to the Airbnb. And like I have my luggage, and another guy has luggage, but a couple other guys have been there already, and they're like escorting us to the Airbnb, and it's only a couple blocks away, and it took us like an hour just to get like 2 or 3 blocks. And I'm sitting there with my luggage trying to go, and these other coaches just couldn't even walk down the sidewalk and just be like a normal dude and just hang out and just chill. Like every girl they had to talk to, every girl they had to try to pick up and toss over their shoulder and just go crazy with. And I'm like, guys, can I just go drop off my bags? We can come back out like in like 10 minutes. Just let's go. So I'm taking like an hour to walk there. So that got old when you can't go out with guys and just be normal dudes. Like they can't flip the switch off. That was something else that was like a red flag. So yeah. And then remember, even though these crash and burns, I said this right at the beginning, like the crash and burn stories, my wing making a girl cry, and then later we ran into her again, and then she like thought I was a dick. She's like, oh, you're really fun, but Bravo's a dick. And I was like the nice one to her. Like 2 nights ago, he had like nagged her and made her cry. She was really attractive, and he told her, he goes, you look like a slightly less attractive Julia Roberts. And then she's like, why would you say that? And he goes, well, you're clearly not as attractive as her. She's a famous actress. And then she turns and looks at me, and she's like, Bravo, can you show me a magic trick? Because I had done one earlier. Can you show me another one? And then right when I'm getting ready to say yes, he's like, whoa, we're not dancing monkeys. We're not here. And I was like, no. I see her like tearing up. I'm like, yeah, I'll do one for you. It's okay. And I show her one. She's like, thanks. And I felt horrible. And then a couple days later, he runs into her. And then she's like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. And they start talking. She goes, oh yeah, you were so cool, but your friend Bravo was a dick. I was like, he told me that later. I was like, what? I was the nice one to her. So anyways, hilarious story. And then like they kind of hit it off later. But yeah, I miss the days when I would go out and like be nervous about this stuff, and it would be exciting because like you didn't know what was going to happen, and you're trying out like that was some of the most fun days of my life. Like as being a single guy, that was like some of the most fun ever. And I'm not even saying like getting the girl and going home or any of that crazy stuff, just like going out and being nervous and not knowing where the night's going to go. And then later you meet someone, and then you get invited to this VIP party later, this after hours party, this speakeasy in LA, because they stopped serving alcohol at whatever time. And then you go there, and now everyone's drinking and they're playing like poker games, and we're hanging out with like a celebrity. And then later we go back and all this crazy stuff happens. And like, it was crazy. It was fun. And once I got to the point though, where I was really good at this, like all that excitement kind of went away. I was just like, I know tonight's going to be fun and some cool stuff's going to happen. And that was just the norm. So I actually would tell students this. I know it sounds crazy, but like those days when I was first starting out and I didn't know what to do, like those are some of the best. So some of the most happiest memories you'll ever have are like right in front of you if you guys like step up and take it. And then last thing with the wing, I just started growing out like my facial hair years ago, like just like a goatee. And I remember I'd get like stragglers that would pop up, and I would like stroke my beard all the time trying to like get this down, just like the front of it. That's all I had. And I remember once my wing's like, hey man, why are you rubbing your face so much? Like, I know you're always paying attention to everything, but like you're doing it a lot. So I figured there's a reason. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know I'm doing it. And then now I'm consciously aware of it and I start consciously tracking it. And I realized I was doing it all the time, talking to people, like just constantly doing this. Hand would go up, constantly do this. So like that's probably one of the greatest examples of what a wing can do is like you're unconsciously aware, you're unconsciously incompetent, not aware that you're doing something, and they point out something that's super obvious, like you constantly doing this. Okay. And because I would get these stragglers and would irritate me, and I was all insecure about it because I never had facial hair. So I'm always doing this and doing this, just this. Now I got to do that. But he was just like, why are you doing it? And then I realized I was doing it. It took me like a month to stop doing it. There's a whole story there. I can tell you some other time about how I actually had a small chunk of that to like figure out. So anyways, those are kind of the whole meat and potatoes of wingmanship. And so my wing and I wrote these up years ago, the PUA commandments. And the very first one we actually wrote was, I DHV my brother, I never DLV. And so that was huge because if you're doing that, he's not your brother. He's not helping you out. So, all right. With that said, Mayank, how to break the ice with the girl you like and not be a creep. So I've talked about that in other videos, and it's a lot on my blog. Really depends on the situation, but if you like break things down, you're either going direct or indirect, and those are the two ways of doing it. Asking a question like that makes me think that you're still new at this stuff. And then the simplest way of doing that is just asking interesting questions. And the key to asking questions, which is going indirect, the key to asking questions like that is to ask a question and then get a little deeper and ask why. So like I'm married and I matched with my wife online and she works in the medical field. And so it's like a specific job. And like one of my favorite questions is if someone's like one girl was like a firefighter, one girl was a doctor, one girl was a lawyer, working at a law firm, becoming a lawyer, one girl's a pharmacist. Like I'm thinking of all the people that women I dated or gone on dates with. And it was a lot of those kind of careers, but those are like usually specific jobs and a certain type of job. So then I would ask things like, well, like, why did you want to become that? So, oh, you're a doctor, you're a nurse, you're a lawyer. Like, why did you want to become a doctor? Like, is that something you always wanted to be when you were growing up, or did like something happen when you were a kid? And I really like the nurses, like, oh, well, like, did something happen when you were a kid, or like a nurse was really nice to you and they had like an impact on you, and that's when you decided you wanted to like be a nurse. And so it's usually something like that. Sometimes the answer is like, no, I just fell into it. But for specific kind of cool careers like that, that's not stuff you just usually fall into, especially ones that are like harder. So don't just ask someone like, oh, what do you do for work? Oh, I'm a doctor. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. And then make a lame joke like everyone else does, like girls that I'd meet that were school teachers. As soon as they would tell me that, I go, oh, how many times do guys instantly make like creepy jokes wishing that you were their teacher growing up or something? And they're like, oh, every time, which right there is a DHV because it shows that like I understand them and I'm not like those other guys. Now we're on the same wavelength about how those other guys are dorks. So something like that's good and understanding like where they're coming from. But the why questions are usually good. And really, if you think about it, like if you're trying to get to like a cool conversation, what I call like a DHV conversation, a DHV story, or like a DHV routine or something, if you're trying to do that, like that's step 3, you need like the transition and the opener to lead to that very well. So the example that's on my website is the 5 Oceans opener, which is an opener that when I first heard it, I thought was pretty lame. And then I was like, oh, wait, I don't know all 5 of them. And then I knew if I didn't know all 5, most people in the world won't. And I've asked that tons of times. I've had tons of students ask thousands and thousands of times around the world. I've heard one student said once someone answered it correctly, but no one's ever answered correctly for me. So I might say like, oh, hey, I know this is a weird, you root it. Hey guys, false time constraint, real quick. Hey guys, non-sexual, real quick, false time constraint, root it. I need your help to win a bet with my friend over there. Or, hey, this was on the radio earlier, or someone asked me this question and I couldn't answer it. Now it's driving me wild, driving me nuts. Like, crazy if like you can answer it, if other people can. But anyways, I've been asking people all night, can you name all 5 oceans off the top of your head? And then off the top of your head so they don't pull out their phone and Google it. And so that just is a real simple opener. People start thinking about it. It becomes silly because they're like, the Mediterranean. I'm like, nope, that's a sea. Gulf of Mexico. Nope, that's not an ocean. It's part of an ocean. And I usually only get 2 to 3 correct answers. I've had 4 a couple times. I've never had 5, all 5. And so if you don't know it, then the opener becomes like, oh, one of my friends asked it to me and I didn't know it. So I'm seeing if anyone else knows the answer before I Google it. Like that would be a simple way. Anyways, when you start finding out what the answer is, well, there's the Arctic, so Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, Arctic, and the Southern Ocean. I do it like that on purpose. Arctic for North Pole, Southern Ocean. Some people are like, the Southern Ocean, like the Antarctic? I go, yeah, it used to be called the Antarctic, but they changed the name of it years ago, like to the Southern Ocean, kind of like how Pluto's no longer a planet. And people go, oh, yeah, I heard of that. I go, so it's not our fault. Like, we don't know the names. Like, they keep changing it on us. So, like, when I was in school, that was the answer. And actually, I remember when I was in school, I cheated on the planets test. I actually wrote, like, all the names of the planets on the bottom of my shoe. But I wrote it in the morning, and then, like, the test was after recess. So it was all rubbed off by then. So it didn't really help. But the one planet I could always remember was Mars, because I'm an Aries. And you're not a Scorpio, are you? So right there, I conversation steered from astronomy to astrology. I'm an Aries and I have cool stuff to talk about Aries and why I'm into astrology, like how I got into it. There's a whole DHV story there. And then I always say that line, well, I used to always say that line that way on purpose. You're not a Scorpio, are you? Because I dated lots of Scorpios and a lot of girls who are Scorpios love being Scorpios. They're really into it. So I would say that because they're either going to say yes. And I'm like, oh my God, I knew it. I can't even talk to you anymore. Stay away from me. And that's a little push pull. And then how did you know? And then I get to take it from there. Or they would say like, oh no, I'm not a Scorpio. I go, yeah, I didn't think so. What are you? So it's actually like a magician's force where it's like, this isn't your card, is it? And they're like, yeah, it is. Oh, I knew it. This isn't your card, is it? Nope. Yeah, this one is. So you basically get 2 guesses. So that's what I would do. Now you're talking about astrology. And then really it's kind of what I talked about earlier. It's like 3 ways. They're either really into it, they're a little into it, or they're not into it at all. Like that's kind of the way a lot of this stuff goes. There's usually like big, medium, little. Like that's 3 ways of dealing with resistance. I've talked about that before. There's a video up on that already on YouTube. And there's lots of stuff that's like 3s. But if they're really into it, boom, you just struck gold. If they're not really into it, well, neither was I, but blah, 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 blah. Now you get to build some rapport because of that. And then if they're not into it, then you get to like take them on a little adventure because I wasn't either. And then blah, blah, blah. I had it once where I was doing a boot camp and I was demoing this because I taught it earlier and I'm demoing it in field. It's going great. I get to astrology and the girl goes, wow, you were really cool until you just said that. Like I was really digging you until you just said that. But astrology is stupid. I just lost so much respect for you. And this was in front of a student. And I remember being like, in my head, I was like, you son of a. I was like, this stupid. And you just real unhappy. But I didn't show any of it. And I go, wait, why are you so against astrology? Because I used to be also. But why are you so against it? Like, you probably study psychology or like something like scientific. And she goes, oh, actually, yeah, I'm going to school. Like I'm going to be a psychologist. And that's what she's studying, psychology. That was what her major was, which that was a shot in the dark, but it makes sense. Like, why is someone so against it? Probably because they're on the other end of the spectrum doing something else. And then I go, it's weird how, like just a generation ago, like I think it was psychology, but like therapists, all that, they kind of would rub people's heads and the bumps on their skull, like supposedly signified like the same bumps on their brain. And that was actually, and she goes, oh yeah, fleb, whatever the word was. She's like, oh yeah, that we talked about that. And I was like, yeah, that's weird how like that was a real science just a generation ago. And now we laugh about it. And I go, but that's kind of what astrology was. Like that was like archetypes and personality types. So that's kind of the same thing. So I I just think that's interesting, always getting to the root of stuff and how every culture kind of developed one, like their own. And then I can see the change on her face. And she's like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Super powerful getting her to just change her mind like that. And then right after too, I go, yeah, it's interesting how like now we laugh at that stuff. I go, hopefully that doesn't happen to psychology in a few years. So like I was like trying to get her back for her busting my balls so hard in front of the student. And I could tell that hit. And she was then we laughed about it. But I had a girlfriend at the time. And actually, I think that boot camp, I even had my girlfriend and her friend, or maybe my ex-girlfriend and her sister, one of those undercover at a bar. So like I didn't go much further than that. But after I said that and I reframed it like that, she was very interested. So how to break the ice with a girl you like and not be a creep. Opinion openers. Hey, I need your help with something real quick. I got a question. And if you're still thinking like that, just do it real easy. Set the bar low, set like attainable goals, which I was saying earlier about when you have a wing, like you focus on different things. Well, at the beginning, set like real easy to achieve goals. Just like if you're going to the gym and you're going to start working out, I don't tell you, oh, I need you to run 30 miles like in the next 2 hours or whatever, like some crazy goal. You're like, no, just walk a mile. And then let's do some stretches and mobility, and we'll do some push-ups and squats, and we'll just kind of see what we're working with. Like that would be a better first workout. So that's a key, is setting the bar low. And lastly, if you're also not good at this stuff yet, don't shit where you eat. So don't do this like in class, in your classes at school, with your coworkers, with people like in your neighborhood or at the restaurant downstairs. I used to live in a building that had restaurants downstairs and a wine bar. Like don't hit on them, because then if you creep them out, if you crash and burn, like now they're going to be there all the time. So I lived in Phoenix, and then we would go to Tempe, which is the next city over, which is where ASU was, and that's where we go and practice. And then when I moved back to Phoenix years later, I lived in downtown Phoenix. Like I had all my spots picked out. I'd go there on dates and stuff, but I would never take students there, because then my students, if I bring a few students there, I'm like the cool guy who always shows up with like an awkward, weird dude. And then that's going to ruin my rep there. So like, don't shit where you eat. Okay. All right. Someone else just hopped in. Good to see you, man. So we did about 50 minutes. So I covered all the wingmanship stuff. And I think I'm going to be hopping off in a little, but if you guys have any questions, now's the time. I'm here. I love having the support. Thanks for swinging by. I think this is a pretty good video. So if you guys, pretty good content in this. So if you guys want, like, rewatch it later for the lessons. But if you have any questions about anything, I'm here. There's a chat box. Type away. I'm happy to help. And then I'll quickly right there. So this is my lock picking stuff. I was playing around with that earlier today, but I just got right there one of the electric pumpkin carving knives. And I try to get those a few times, and I always like missed out, but they were always sold out when I would go to grab them. But I was at Walmart today. They had, it was like $6-7. And I've seen lots of videos on it. And this is something I want to play with, where you actually like put a lock pick on the end. You take the little saw off, or you maybe grind it, and then you put your own, you either grind it down or cut it off and put your own lock pick, the type you like, on the end of it. And you actually use it as like a little electric rake. I was in a lock picking class, and the instructor demoed it, where he had like a lock picking gun that was like hundreds of dollars, and he had the lock and put it in there, and it popped it open. Like, you had the tinder rod on it, and open it up very quickly. And then he's like, now we've heard these work really well, and I just built one. And then he put it in there, and it opened the padlock in like 2 seconds. So something I want to play with. And these are always kind of things I'm always playing with and working on. And there's some new stuff coming soon. I got to find a wing. So that was basically the whole video. Do you need a wing? Wings are really, really good. They help you see things you don't see, and they can help push you, and they can help support you. But I'll tell you, it's hard finding a good wing. Like, there was other coaches I worked with who were like supposed to be good wings, and maybe they were with each other, but when they would like hang out with us or other people or like the interns and stuff, like they weren't. And there was even one of them I had to talk to. Like a couple other guys tried to talk to him, and then I talked to him once, and I was like, "Hey, man, like, what are you doing? Like, he was like, oh, I didn't know I couldn't talk." He was trying to get defensive, and I was like, dude, you're breaking like the first rule of wingmanship. Like, you were a guy like writing stories about it, like teaching guys how to do this. Like, I didn't think I had to cover it with you, but this is the deal. And I had to like lay down the law on it, and then finally, like, it still didn't click, and I was like, okay, well then just don't talk to. If I'm talking to some girls, don't talk to us. Like, if you can't follow the bro code, the wing code, like, don't even come over. And like, this was a guy who was a coach, and he should know better. So I've only found a couple dudes. I mean, I almost want to say less than like 5 that like I would hang out with, I would roll with, that were cool, that wouldn't step on your toes intentionally. Sometimes you gotta like figure things out, but they wouldn't step on your toes intentionally. They wouldn't backstab you. And like I only found a few. And then even sometimes with that, and sometimes with those guys, like things didn't work out. So yeah, it's nice having a wing, but you don't need one. And then I got to the point pretty quickly where I'd go out with my wing, which was good, because then we're like, it's like going to the gym together. You have like a workout buddy, but then he's going to go over there and do his workouts, and I'm going over here doing my thing. So then are you really like workout buddies? But at least you rolled together with, and that helps out a ton. So that was quickly what became like how I would do it, because like I like doing my own thing. I like just, if I can't get the girl on my own, like I don't deserve her. I don't need a wing. And I remember I was doing magic tricks all the time. I love magic. I have like a whole bin of magic tricks. Like ever since I was a kid, I did it. And then some kid that was like a bully made fun of me when I was in grade school, and I did it for performance day. He made fun of me, and then like I stopped doing it for years. I just quit with magic because one douchebag like busted my balls, embarrassed me about it. And then when I started getting like on the self-help, self-improvement journey, I actually realized, I was like, why did I give up something I was passionate about? Because of this one douchebag that I didn't see like after another year, he got expelled. I was like, I never even saw him again. Like, why did I give up something I love? So when I started getting into all this pickup stuff, that's why the tagline for the website is elevate your game, elevate your life, because you start realizing this is symptoms of larger overall issues. And I realized like, hey, I need to start doing what I want to do and like not care what idiots think or strangers think. So I got really into magic again, and I loved it. I love like mind effing people with it. I love knowing how it's done when other people don't know how it's done. Like, so I used to do it all the time. And then I realized one day, like, it's a crutch, because I saw like an attractive girl at the mall. I was like, oh man, I don't have my, I used to wear like a leather jacket. It was wintertime. I had some pockets here. I was like, oh man, I don't have my stuff on me. Oh, I can't talk to this girl. I realized it was a crutch. And so when I realized I'm using crutches, which a lot of guys use, like alcohol as a crutch, a wingman as a crutch, go spending a lot of money. Oh, I got to go to the VIP section, so I use that as a crutch. So anytime I was using crutches, I was like, I got to get rid of all those. So a lot of times having a wingman's a crutch, because I'm not always going to have them with me. Like we would go out 3 or 4 nights a week because he was a massage therapist. I had sold my house with my ex-wife, made a whole bunch of money, and we were very, very committed to it. But a lot of guys can't go out that much. So if you're only going out once a week, like you can't get good by being social and practicing this stuff one time a week. You need to do it more. So the majority of your time, you're solo. So a wingman definitely helps at bars and clubs and stuff. But the other thing is, those are like batting cages. I never met a girl that I had a real cool connection with at a bar or club. I met lots that I had short-term fun with or dated or flings or whatever with, but never one that I actually had a real connection with that was a real cool chick. All those were met day game, day-to-day life, living life, online or social circle, through friends or through the cool stuff I was doing already. So bars and clubs are batting cages, and you go there and practice. A lot of times it's the cold approach. You got to get over that. I'm uncomfortable in this environment. I got to practice environments I'm uncomfortable with. And I got to practice against like groups and trying to deal with music and dance and all this other stuff. And if you can do that and get someone's attention, a group of people's attention there, like getting it at Starbucks or at the mall when you're in the belt section looking at jeans and belts, and some girl walks by, like, it's cake. So I'm slowly growing my social circle of bros. Hopefully I can find a wing. I said this earlier. best way is lead by example. You level up, just like getting in shape. You level up, let them see the difference. And all of a sudden they're like, whoa, what happened to you, man? And you're like, oh, it's this book I read. You should check it out. It's called The Game. That's what we'd always tell guys to do. And then if they don't read the game, like that was kind of their buy-in. If they wouldn't even read it, they're not serious about this stuff. So I'd always tell them, like, read the book. And later I even did this with friends who were like trying to, this is really how it really started teaching after we tried to coach the group of guys just so they could hang out with us. A lot of people I knew or got to know, and then they would eventually hear my story. They would go, oh, wow, like my brother needs your help, or I have a friend who needs your help. And that never works out well, because that's like, oh, hey, you're a stranger I want to introduce to my brother or my friend who's an alcoholic. And he doesn't think he's an alcoholic, but I want you to come help him. Like, it's kind of like that. Oh, he sucks with girls, and this guy's a dating coach. And so then a lot of times the friend was like insulted about it. But I would always tell him, I'm like, okay, well, tell him about the book, The Game. Like, get it for him. It's $20 on Amazon. Tell them to read it. And then if they read it, like, then we can reach out and then we can talk, and I'll help them. I'll definitely give them some help. And then if they get the book and don't like it, like, I'll buy it from them, because I used to like give out books all the time to friends and stuff. But I was like, oh, I got a book collection. I could just get it a couple extra copies. So I made that offer countless times throughout the years. I think once I had a friend of my brother's, partially read the book, but never finished it. He's married though now, so he didn't need me, but that was it. So other than that, like, no one else really read it. But a lot of the guys who saw me, who knew me before and then saw me after, then they were like, whoa, okay, now I'll take it more serious. So that's the key. I'm really good at doing fitness on my own. Yep. Either be oversensitive or either be oversensitive or confrontational when you bring it up. Oh, how do you reject wings? I met some in my day that were either, I'm assuming that's like to awkward assholes, or had a major chip on their shoulder. It would otherwise, they would be oversensitive or confrontational. So yes, what I refer to that as is that's like the AFC. So nerdy, the virgin, or the AFC rage. And a guy I knew in LA, who was a little guy, like, even though I knew him for a while, he still had that. And he shouldn't have that at all, but he still had that nerdy virgin angst chip on his shoulder. And so if they have that, that's like, they need to like heal. They need to get over that. And if they're still carrying that, like, they're dangerous. I shouldn't say dangerous. They're poisonous to be around. And they're not going to be someone who, like, so the very, very first story I told at the beginning, the guy who opened the two flight attendants who I saw, and that inspired me. Like, later that night, I went over and was winging him. This is before I read the book or anything. And then later he like gave the girls his card. And he's like, oh, I need to go. And like, I'm still there with him. So like, he ditched me. And like, I don't know if he went to go get a drink or go do something else, but like gave the girls his card. And he was trying to be an artist. And so he was really trying to draw and do lots of stuff. And he had all the support from all of his buddies. But I remember it was kind of awkward, and he left very awkwardly. And the girl's like, well, what's that about? And I was like, oh, I think he had to go to the bathroom or something. We're here with a group of people. And I was like, but man, his art's really good. You should hold on to that card. That's going to be worth something one day, because he's like so talented. And then like 5 minutes later, he came by, and the girl's like, oh, your friend said you're a really good artist, that like I should hold on to this card because you're going to be famous. And then he turns and he's like, why would you say that? You never say that to an artist. That's the worst thing you say. And he starts ripping me a new one about it, when I'm just trying to be like a bro to him. And so I realized with that guy right then, I was like, oh, even though he's like learning this stuff, he's not someone that like I can hang out with yet, because he was like insulted or something. And then he's like shitting on me in front of them, and they just ruin everything. And that's when later I was like, all right, I'm done with him. The other guy who was the virgin, I was like, I'll help him out. We'll read the book. And then my old wing, like the two of them were going to be wings, and two of us were going to be wings. And then he quit, and then this guy quit, and then we came together. So like, I didn't even talk to him because he just quit. And then later he got really weird about stuff. And then he would like blog about anti-PUA stuff. He was just a very cranky dude. And so the problem is if those guys don't get over that, you can't even hang out with them. So if they're a good friend, I would maybe talk to them about it and be like, hey man, you got to fucking lighten up. You got to chill out. Like you're like angry. You come off as like confrontational. You're like snappy. You don't come off as fun. Like it's kind of like a Debbie Downer. Maybe give that to him, but more than likely, if you say that to him, he's gonna get like really offended and then think you're a dick. Oh, why you can say that to me? Oh, and then like turn around on you. So the problem is most of those guys, they're just not gonna get over it, and that's just how they are. That's how it was in LA, especially for one guy. And like I said, out of everyone I met out in LA, he was the guy who should not have that, and he had it. And then he even tried to flex on me a few times with some of that stuff, and I had to check him. And then that kind of like ruined our friendship. So yeah, that's the way it goes with those guys. And then just stop inviting them out, like just kind of like how you handle it with a chick. You just stop inviting them, stop hanging out with them, like they get the message. Or you hang out with them, and then if you tell them the intro, like I said earlier, no man, I'm good. Do you need a drink? No, I'm good. And then just don't let them be around you. And then if they want to, well, you're like, hey, I'm opening. Your job is to come help me. This is what I need. And if you can't do A, B, and C, then that's it. Because when you're in a group, I'm willing to do whatever you want. I'll say dumb stuff. I'll tell them I'm gay or I'm married or whatever. So that way I'm disqualifying myself so they don't think I'm a potential suitor. So like maybe that's what the deal is for me. But if I'm willing to do that for you and you're not willing to do what I ask, then can't trust them. Lots of crutches. Yep. And that's really what it comes down to, just kind of in life. Like, where are my crutches in life? So is alcohol a crutch? Wingman a crutch? Magic? I got to be at this certain place. Like, whatever it is. We joked about it during boot camps later that I would tell guys, sleep's a crutch, because we would go out all night, debrief until like 4 or 5 in the morning, get a couple hours of sleep, and then do it again, and then do the same thing and do it again. And like on the third day, guys have only gotten like 5-6 hours of sleep. I'm like, sleep's a crutch. Later, it evolved into air's a crutch, food's a crutch, but obviously those aren't. You need those to survive. I don't need all the other stuff like to function. So yeah, I gotta stop spending too much time at low life dive bars. If that's what you like doing, I like chill dive bars and stuff too. The problem is, if I'm trying to practice my social skills, those usually aren't the best places for it. So Irish bars, pubs, beer gardens, those were usually my favorite spots. There's a couple of them on Mill, Casey Moore's, Oyster House, and then Rollabulla. They were on the other ends of like the strip. So we'd start at one, and then we'd work our way down to the other. And if we wanted, we'd flip around and go back the other side of the street. And so that was kind of always our route. But Rollabulla got closed, and those were usually my favorite kind of go-to spots. And a lot of times it's like going out and exploring is part of it. Like, you go into these other bars and clubs and restaurants you haven't been into before. Walk into a restaurant that's kind of like a cool place. It's got a cool bar. Walk in. Oh, I've just never been in here before. I'm just going to kind of walk around, check it out. The hostess is like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, have fun. The bar's over there. Walk through, do some cold approaches, talk to the waitress, talk to the bartender, talk to the hostess. I would then try to make like an impression with the hostess in downtown Phoenix. I'm like, oh, what do you guys do here? What are you known for and stuff? And then she'd tell me, and I'm like, okay, what's your name? Okay, Heather. I go, all right, next time I'm back here, Heather, I'm going to be on a date. Okay. And it's going to be with a really pretty girl. So when I'm here and I'm with that pretty girl, it's your job to make me look cool. You got to act like I'm like a regular, like I've been coming here all the time. And they usually laugh and joke about it. Well, when I was going crazy on online dating, a lot of times a day or two later, I'm back. And then all of a sudden the hostess is, oh my God, Bravo. Bravo's an easy to remember name. Oh my God, Bravo, it's so good to see you again, blah, blah, blah. And that was like a little joke we had. I would go on the date. So now I'm like checking out new places. I've got the date. I told the hostess, like, oh, I'm going to be coming here with a pretty girl. Then after that date happens and doesn't go well, I come back a day or two later. She's there again, the bartender, the waitress, the hostess, whoever it was. And I'm like, oh, hey, it's good to see you again. She goes, oh, what happened? I go, she wasn't cool. Like, it wasn't, we weren't vibing. I go, not like us. Like, too bad I didn't swipe right on you, but like, yeah, it didn't work out with her. And now I just have tons of social proof. Now I'm letting her know I'm joking around, I'm flirting. But the thing is too, like when it's a hired gun, you can slow game it. And so I didn't do that before until I got good, because I told you before, don't shit where you eat. But all that kind of stuff is things I started doing later, and that was all without having a wing. So anyways, dive bars are fun, but you're not seeing attractive women. You want it to be women that you're attracted to, that like you have you've I don't like the term approach anxiety, especially like approach anxiety, social anxiety. That's really what it is. But I don't even like those terms. Like to me, it's approach excitement. So like when you're getting on a scary ride or a scary movie, a roller coaster, like that could be exciting and that gets your heart racing, but that's a positive. So I don't usually see women that give me approach excitement at dive bars. I usually don't see that at my old jujitsu school. I usually don't see that at the gun range. So I got to go to those places where those women are. And so when you're a dude who does a lot of manly stuff, it's actually harder to meet women, which is one of the reasons why I started working at the yoga studio all those years ago, was because I was trying to like get out of my comfort zone and do something totally different. Unfortunately, it was mostly gay guys who were there, but there were some attractive women. And how to break the ice with the girl you like and not. I think I already answered that. I don't know if you hopped off. I saw the numbers disappear. So I actually answered that and kind of went through the whole 5 oceans. And really, if you already know them and you already opened them, then just getting into like a DHV topic, which would be like astrology or something, and then just having a conversation about that. I don't want to rehash that. My voice is starting to go out. It's been a long day. But already on my blog, and there's already podcasts, like all free stuff on the Bravo Hood. So you just need to go there, and there's audio clips that you can click that explain tons of that. So that's all there. Anything else? Well, I'm going to call it. If you guys like this, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up. I see some guys already have. And subscribe and like and just commenting. That's like huge for the algorithm. So even just saying thanks right there. We've all watched these videos, those videos throughout the years. Hey, thumbs up, subscribe, and all that. But yeah, I'm trying to do this more. So it's going to help me and it helps the channel and it makes me more people in here. The more fun these are, the more of them I do. So support is greatly appreciated. And it's just like what you do. If you're not, it's so simple to do and just support people. And even like I looked up on it, like you're not supposed to like a video right away at the very beginning because then like the algorithm doesn't like it. So even on the podcast and stuff I listen to, I was just listening to like the Sean Ryan podcast, and I'll wait like 10, 15 minutes, or Mark Dice, and then I'll click it then. Like in it, when I'm actually hear something, I'm like, oh, that was really good. I'll do it. Because supposedly that's even helps. And then it's funny now with like some of the guys I really like I won't even like skip the commercials because I'm like, oh, I want to help them with the algorithm. But anyways, I'm not asking any of that stuff. Real simple. If you like it, thumbs up. If you like it, comment. And that's huge. So, all right, guys, I'm going to bounce. What time is it? 9 o'clock. Okay. Went a little longer than I thought, but all good. I'm going to go finish watching a movie with Mrs. G and get to sleep because I was up very, very early today. So hope this helped. I'm going to be doing more of these in the future. There's already a couple of them I did that were like my testing live streams, and they're all having titles on them. So that's all topics. If you guys want, check them out. And yeah, I'm going to be putting more stuff up there. I got a couple more videos from back in the day that were like infield stuff. So I'll be sharing those. And then some of the events I spoke at, I have lots of the video that's just I've never been released. I always was keeping things on the down low. I didn't really like putting too much stuff out there. And but now that I got a family, I gotta do more work. So I'm putting more of it out there now. So this is like the way I'm spreading the word. The other big reason is there's so many guys out there I'm seeing that are more than ever hopeless at this stuff. And there's guys out there that are scamming like always, but even more now that are unqualified. And that was a big thing. I was talking with a friend and they're like, why aren't you posting more stuff? Why aren't you doing more stuff out there? And I was like, I just don't like it. I like being low key and stuff. And my friend was like, yeah, but if these guys who are looking for this stuff, like don't find you, and this is a guy who's a former student who's like married now, has a family and stuff. He's like, yeah, if they don't find you and learn from you, they're going to learn from like one of those other douchebags. And, or one of those douchebags, not other douchebags. They're going to learn from one of those douchebags. And I was like, fuck, you're right. So that actually finally clicked in my head where I was like, all right, I got to do more of this stuff. So more's coming. And like always, I appreciate the support. So if this helped, support back. And then also feel free to post questions and stuff or email them. If you guys are ever, I understand this is like a weird topic. So if you guys are ever shy about posting something, then just shoot me an email. My email's on all the accounts. It's on the website, bravo@thebravohood.com. Like, just shoot me an email and then just say, hey, I want this to be private. And then that becomes a question I put on my notepad that I can like answer on future videos. So you can get any question that you're curious about, almost any question answered. So, all right, I've said goodbye a few times. It's official. Good night, guys.